My name is Marvin Smith. I am the CEO and founder of Smith Bookkeeping Financial Services. And this is my social media platform, which is YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Torvo. And I'm thankful to be out tonight. This is going to be one of many series. So tonight I want to talk about what is money rehab, money rehab. So as I mentioned on one of my last videos, that we have a rehabilitation for those that are on drugs, those that are on alcohol abuse, and we have so many rehabilitation for many different things. So the reason why I said money rehab is because many people are destroyed. Many people don't understand certain things as far as credit, how you can make credit work is because, as I always mentioned, as children growing up, our parents never talked about credit or cash or checking accounts or stocks and bonds, self-direct IRAs, custodial Roth IRAs, backdoor Roth IRAs, private family foundation where you accept your own 501c and donate money to your favorite chapter yet get a tax write-off. So these are the things that was never discussed at the dinner table, at downtime, as far as family teaching, at school from public, middle, high school, even college, even at church. And a lot of people didn't. A lot of people did not discuss these things even amongst your friends and family, outside your home. So now you become an adult, and as I mentioned to a young man that I'm mentoring, he came to my office yesterday, and I talked about how kids are in college who have no job. However, they're being given credit cards. The other part to that is they are taking out student loans. So when they finish their 2 to 4 year or your undergraduate or postgraduate and get their degrees, they already started out with debt. Some are able to go to college on scholarships where they don't have to pay back anything. So he's one of them. He went to college and he went on scholarships. So what that meant was he didn't have to pay at all. So he's blessed. But so many kids that go to college that don't get scholarships, however, while they're in college, they're getting credit cards. They don't have a job, yet they're taking out all these loans. So when they graduate, what happens is they realize that they owe back not only their student loan, but they have credit card debt if they didn't manage it properly. Then you see some people nowadays, a lot of families are struggling with their finances. And a lot of times this stuff is generational. I don't want to use the word generational curse because I think when you say that word, if you believe that you are cursed, then your life is going to be an example of being cursed, where things are not going to go right in your life. So to me, it's just a lack of education, a lack of knowledge. So that's why the Lord said in Hosea 4 and 6, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. What is knowledge? Knowing information. In my opinion, the information is here. However, there's a second part to that that's deep. My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Now here's the answer to the question. Because they reject knowledge. So many of the people are rejecting the knowledge based on a lack of being taught and how they feel. So you spend money on what you think and how you feel. So your thoughts and your feelings are in alignment with each other. And it dictate and predict what you're going to do. Like many of us, even myself growing up, I wasn't taught. So bad credit is a lack of knowledge. It creates bad spending habits. It creates bad behavior. And bad debt is a business. Now, what is good debt? The opposite. It's the education, seeking the knowledge, good spending habits, which is equivalent to good behavior. Right? So we was always taught the traditional way. Save your money in a savings account or park your money in a CD account. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't say I'm saving for a rainy day. What I say is I'm investing. I'm investing in myself. It's an investment. Because as a man thinketh, so is he. So your thoughts will become your reality. We are creators of our own experiences. So whatever we are thinking is in alignment with however we are feeling. These things are going to manifest and show up in our life, and these things are going to happen. So there's many ways to do things, but the first thing is you must be able to identify what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. You must identify these things. Why? Because in order to replace a bad habit, you have to replace it with what? Good habit. But in order to replace something, you have to be able to analyze and see where it's coming from. The beginning, what we call the root. What is the root of all your issues, your problems, which is looking for a solution, right? So many the everyday working class person in America, they work 9 to 5, so they trade their time for money. So they punch in, they work 40 hours a week. Some of you are paid on a weekly basis, bi-weekly, which is every 2 weeks. Some of you are paid semi-monthly, which is the 15th and the 31st of every month. And some people get paid monthly, depending on what job, what company you work for. So now, to help you understand, let's say you go for a job. They say, well, what is your desired salary? You say, well, my desired salary is, I'm going to use something very that you understand. My desired salary is $50,000 a year. Let's say this is for any job, right? I'm just using that word 50,000. So my desired salary is 50,000. So your salary is 50,000 minus the deductions, which is your net pay. You don't bring your gross salary home. You bring home your net pay after all the deductions that is taken out. So these are the money that is taken out of your check. The first thing is always going to be taxes. Taxes is always going to be taken out of your check. That is the first deduction from your paycheck. Those who are employees and who work. Now, when you own a business, taxes is the last thing. When you own a business, the expenses are the deductions that is taken out. And at the end of the year, if you have a profit, the business is going to pay taxes on that. If you have a loss, the business will not pay taxes on that. So there's a difference. But when you work and you have a paycheck and you're making $50,000, $50,000 was your desired salary. So you and the employer agreed on $50,000. Then the employer gives you a W-4, right? And you fill out the W-4, how many jobs you have, how many exemptions. So now a lot of people don't know what that word exemptions mean. A lot of people put down, let's say if you're a family of 3, father, mother, and 1 child. So you'll put down 3, the number 3. So the more exemptions that you put down, the more you come home with more money, more take-home pay. Now, if you put zero, they're going to take out the appropriate tax. And to you, that's a lot of taxes. And to a lot of people who are struggling day to day, week to week, month to month, they're trying to get as much money as they can through putting on a lot of exemptions and taking a part-time job, yet to find themselves still struggling every day. So part of that is lack of knowledge, right? Not putting yourself in a better position. But when you're trying to feed your family, you do whatever it takes to put food on the table and keep a roof over their head. Yet, behind closed doors, your children don't see that you cry in the dark. Your children don't understand the pressure that you're going through. But every day you put a smile, or sometimes that anger you take it out on the children because you're frustrated because of your economic position. And a lot of it's due to lack of knowledge, not lack of education, but mainly lack of knowledge. Because most adults, when they graduate from school, they don't read that much anymore. They don't pick up a book anymore at all. When we was growing up, you had the newspaper, New York Newsday, Daily News, New York Post, New York Times, right? Black Enterprise magazine, Forbes magazine. So we had what they call different publications. There was a lot of libraries in the community. And if there wasn't any libraries, you would go to Barnes and Noble right down there on Court Street in Brooklyn. So for you those out there, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. And so now, you see, I make $50,000. So every one deduction that's an employee is taxes. The second deduction can be child support. The next deduction can be a lot of you that work at your jobs and you have health insurance. So let's say, for example, your job covers 80% and you're responsible for 20. So what does that mean? Let's say the health insurance for you and your family. The job covers 80%. So to understand the math, let's say the insurance total was $400, right? So now the job is going to cover 80% and your portion is 20%. So 400 times 20% is going to be $80 every 2 weeks. That's going to be deducted out of your paycheck, while your job or your employer covers 80% of that $400. So now we're talking about taxes and we're talking about health coverage, right? And I talked about child support. Now we got 3 deductions. Now let's suppose your job offer life insurance or supplemental insurance, dental insurance. So now the job cover 80%. And the dental, let's say dental insurance, I'm going to use the word 400. 400. Now you covering 20% of 400. 400 times 20% is 80. So $80 is going to be deducted from your paycheck every 2 weeks, or however you get paid. So if it's $80 a month and you got paid weekly, it'd be $20 a week. If you get paid every 2 weeks, which is called bi-weekly, it's going to be what? $40. It's $80 a month, $40 every 2 weeks. If you get paid twice a month on the 15th to 31st, it's going to be $40 every 2 weeks. So now we got taxes, which is automatic on the federal and the state level. Then I mentioned health insurance. Then the third, I mentioned dental insurance. Another insurance that your job might offer you is vision, vision, which is eyes, another, let's say $40 every 2 weeks, right? Um, then last but not one, another that you might be participating in is the retirement account, right? Which could be a 401k. That's the most that we don't want to mention 401k because that's the one that most people understand. So now 401k, how it works like this. Let's say your job up to 6%, the max that your job will match up to. So now you're making $50,000, right? And you're being paid, so it's $25 an hour. So you work 80 hours. You're gonna take, so you just say you chose to elect to withhold so you're gonna take your gross. Remember I said it's up to 6% maximum. So you got 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%. So you decide to take 3% of it, right? So I take $50,000 times 3%. That's $1,500 for the year. Divided by 26 weeks. So $57.69 is going to come out of your check every 2 weeks. So now I mentioned several deductions. So your gross minus all these deductions that I talk about is called your net pay or net earnings. This is called your take-home pay. Now, many of you have either rent or mortgage, right? Then you have utilities, light, and gas. And those that own a house is going to be light, gas, water. Then you have to buy oil, depending on what type of boiler you have, right? For those who are renting, it's going to be rent, light, gas. Now, if you're renting a house, they might include water on that. Now, when you own a house, it's going to be mortgage, light, gas, water, oil for the boiler, right? So now we're talking about that. The next thing is many people have is if you have a car payment. You're paying on you have a car payment, which is a car loan. Next up is car insurance. If you have a finance car, you're required to take out full coverage, right? And if going back to the house, if you have a house, you're paying property tax, right? Some of you, depending on where you live at, you're paying school tax. Oh yeah. Okay. So now you got car finance, you're financing a car. And you're paying monthly on that. You have to take out full coverage auto insurance on that. Right? The next thing is everyone has cable now, right? Or you live streaming off the internet, but you have a cable internet bill. Some people have Dish Network. So I'm gonna call it entertainment. Right? All right. Now we have cell phones, single to family plans. Now, some people have life insurance that they're paying. Sometimes you get it from your job, but you have your own life insurance, whether it's whole life, term, universal index policies, and I'll talk about those later. Well, majority of everybody have a whole life and a term, right? So that's life insurance. A lot of you have subscriptions to Netflix and Hulu or Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Google TV. So we're talking about subscriptions. And then you have children. I didn't brought them up earlier, but now you have kids. Let's say you have a child that's in daycare. So those are child care expenses. Let's suppose you make so much money that your child, you sometimes some places where you work and you're getting health insurance, they cover you at an 80-20, but then they don't cover the dependents. If you add them on, now it's job now it's 20-80, which means the job is going to cover 20%. Now you're responsible for 80% for a dependent, where the job will cover you at 80-20, but it will cover your dependents at 20-80. 20 means the job is going to pay 20% and you're going to pay 80%. So now we're talking about your children. If you have little children between the ages of 1 to 5, you're going to have them in daycare. And depend on the daycare and depend on where you're at as far as your income, which qualify you for certain programs. If you make too much, then you don't qualify for these programs. So now you got child care. You got to take a child there. You might have to pay somebody, if you don't have older children, pay somebody to pick up your child. So now you have child care. The child is young, they have to eat, right? So when they're a baby, you're either going to breastfeed them or give them formula, right? So now all this costs, and I didn't mention credit cards. Now let's say, for example, you went to college. Now you have student loan debt, credit card debt. So now you see like you're drowning in your head trying to get above water, but it seems like it's hard out here. So now I want to go into my first topic is going to be credit, right? And then the next topic is I want to talk about fundamentals of savings. Now, the reason why I'm working it backwards a little bit because I want to talk about it, I want to get this out. So now we're going to talk about credit. Now, what is credit? What is the real definition of credit? To many people, the definition of credit is the ability to buy things today using borrowed funds and pay back the purchase over time. I'll say it once again. What is the definition of credit? Credit is the ability to buy things today using borrowed funds. What are borrowed funds? Credit cards. I'm sticking to personal. We're not talking about business. We're talking about personal. I'm going to read it again. What's the definition of credit? Credit is the ability to buy things today using borrowed funds and pay back the purchase over time. So the borrowed funds is going to be credit cards, which is going to allow you to pay back over time. So let's give some definition to that. One is a mortgage. When you go take out a mortgage to go purchase a home. So you have a 30-year mortgage, and every month for 30 years, you're going to get an invoice or a bill to let you know that you have to pay your mortgage the first 5 days of the month, the beginning of the month. So now, the house that you buy, if you plan on living in it, it becomes a liability to you because the bank owns the house. And it has what they call a lien on your deed. What does that mean? The lien on your deed is from the bank because the bank is the one that still owns your house. You have agreed in a contract to pay the bank for 30 years, whether it's the bank or the credit union that owns the note. The note. So in accounting, we call it notes payable. There's a note and there's an agreement of payback. So now you go get a loan with a mortgage from the bank or the credit card union, And those are the ones that own the note and they have a lien on the deed. You have a 30-year agreement that you are supposed to pay not only the principal, the money that's borrowed, but with that is going to be the interest. That's the cost of borrowing money. So now you agree to pay this 30 years. However, if you default on that, then the bank or the credit union would now start what they call a foreclosure proceeding. They're going to take action now because now you're falling behind 2 to 3 months. And a lot of times this could be from you lost your job, you've got injured, medical, a life-changing event has happened to you, or 3, you just totally lost it mentally by having so much to do. So now the banks is now going to do foreclosure proceeding. The next thing is borrow funds to pay over time would be a car payment. You go to the bank or any dealership and now you pick out a car. You're going to take out a loan to get this car unless you have cash. And you can walk in there, you can walk in Chevy, Nissan, or your local car dealership and say, here go $20,000 to $30,000. This is the car that I want. Right? But majority of most Americans, what they do is they go get a loan and they pay back over time. Sometimes these loans could be 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. It depends on the terms, right? So now you go get a car loan. You want to go to college, whether you want to go to community college, a private college, a 2-year college, or 4-year college. You take out a loan which is called student loans because you didn't apply for grants or you don't have grants or scholarships. But now you want to go get a degree, whether it's from a 2-year or a 4-year college. I'm just using that as basic. So you go what they call student loan. So I mentioned now mortgage, car loan, mortgage loan, car loan, and student loans. So that's the definition of credit. Being able to take something now and pay for it over time. That's what that means. Now, to understand credit and how it works, there are 3 credit bureaus: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Who are they? Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Now, there are also other credit reporting agencies. So Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion are what they call consumer reporting agencies, right? And I'm going to do a part 2 to this, breaking down what's on your credit profile. So I call it's your credit profile. And when do you first establish credit? When you get your first job or take out your first credit card under your Social Security. Because our Social Security number is our account number. It's an account number. It's a 9-digit account number, which is assigned to all of us. So when we get our first job, that's the day that our credit profile is established. When we get our first job, we'll take our first credit card. That's when our credit profile is established because our Social Security number is a 9-digit number, which is our account number or file number. That's what it is. So now you have other credit reporting agencies like LexisNexis, Innovis, Credit Safe, Small Business Financial Solutions. Okay? So these are the small guys, Duns and Bradstreet. And there's many more credit reporting agencies. There are credit reporting agencies for employment. There are credit reporting agencies for medical. There are credit reporting agencies for utilities. And I want to circle back on what I said. There's credit reporting agencies for rental. So there's a lot of credit reporting agencies that is keeping a file on each and every last one of us. So when I say there's a medical reporting agency, that means that when you go to the hospital or your private doctor and your insurance only cover a portion of the bill and the rest is your responsibility, but yet you don't pay it, now it goes into collections. If they can't collect from me, now it goes into collections. And each state has a statutory limit on the debt that you owe. So if you go in the state of Pennsylvania, it's 5 years. So each state has a statute of limitation. There's a statute of limitation. So if there's a 5-year period that you have to pay this back. But I'm not encouraging you not to pay. You should pay. So that's going to show up on your credit report. So now we have the FICO, which is the FICO score, right? And I'm going to break that down. How it's broken down, or they call it the FICO algorithm. And it's a scoring point system. I'm not going to talk about FICO 2, FICO 6, FICO 8. I'm just going to give you the fundamentals of it. And I'll come back later on. So your FICO score is made up of 100. Is broken down of the rule 35, 30, 15, 10, and 10 rule. So the 35% represent the payment history, which means on-time payments and late payments. Late payments stay on your credit report for 2 years. So anything that's past 90 days does not look good. So the first 35% represent the payment history. 30% represent utilization and also mean debt to available credit. 15% represent the length of credit that you have. So what does that mean? How long have you had your credit card for MasterCard or Visa? If it's 5 years or more, the longer you have that card, that's called the length of credit history or historical, right? Then the other 10% represent new credit that you have applied for and have been approved for, a new credit card. And last but not least, the other 10% is called mixed credit. One is called revolving credit, which are your credit cards. The other one is called installment credit, which are installments, your mortgage, your car payment, your student loans. And let's say you take out a term loan, right? So these are called installments because your mortgage, you're going to pay that the first of every month. Your car payment normally is going to be due between the 1st and the 15th, right? Then you have student loans after you graduate college or attend any school where you had to take out a loan, right? The third part of the mixed credit is called charge cards. What is a charge card? American Express. A lot of you familiar with American Express. So one of the components of American Express, American Express do give out credit cards, but they also have charge cards. A charge card means that if you charge up $500, you have to pay that back in full every month. If not, the next month you're going to be charged finance charge and interest charge. So a charge card means whatever you charge, you have to pay it back in full. And the fourth component of mixed credit is service credit. What is service credit? The service provider is extending you credit. For example, those who pay electric bill, your service provider is extending you credit by providing the service, and every 30 days, which is every month, you get a bill that you have to pay on that. Those who cook, have gas, your gas from your service provider is extending you credit of terms of 30 days, when they will give you the gas, turn on the gas, but you have every month they're going to send you a bill and you have to pay it. Right? I'm talking about electric, gas, water. You have a water bill. If you have a cell phone bill from T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, what they do is they extend you service by billing you on a monthly basis, and if the bill is due every month. If you have any subscriptions from the gym membership, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, these are called service credits from vendors and service suppliers. So I broke down the FICO score and how it works. Now, the next component of your credit is when you have a credit card, there's two components of it. There's a minimum pay that's due, minimum pay, and you pay it full. Now, how it works is you have a due date, and there's a date, there's another date when your credit card, let's say by Capital One, is when they report to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Because many of you, if you subscribe to Credit Karma or NerdWallet, you can track your credit scores from Equifax and TransUnion through their app. If you Capital One, they use CreditWise. That's another way you can track your score. Now, Experian is different. I'm going to talk about that later. So now there's your due date. So let's say your credit card is due the 15th of every month. However, 5 days after that, which is another date, is when Capital One now is going to report your credit card balance to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. What are they going to report? Not only are they going to report the balance, but your utilization. So the higher your utilization are, the likelihood that you might not be able to pay back the credit card on time. Right? You're spending way above what you can afford. That's your utilization. So the higher it is, that let the credit card company know that, you know what, this person could be in financial troubles. This person borrowed more than what they can afford. They're charging more than what they can afford. So they're only able to make the minimum payment. Yet that can hurt your utilization score and bring your credit score down. So what you want to do, if your bill is due on the 15th, reminder, there's two components. There's the due date of when the bill is due, and 5 days after that, there's the reporting date. So if your bill is due on the 15th, on the 20th, it all depends. The 20th, I'm using that 5-day period, is when Capital One is going to report your credit card balance. If you paid in full, whatever the balance is, if it's zero or has a balance, they're going to report it on the 20th based on, did you make a full payment or minimum payment? So let's say, for example, you credit card balance is $500. They said, we want a minimum payment of $50. Now you pay $50, Capital One is going to report a balance of $450 to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion on the 20th. So my advice to all of you is, you want to pay your credit card bill in full on that before that due date. And then when Capital One now report, they're going to report what? Zero balance. They're going to report payment paid on time. Right? And if you miss that due date, which I don't advise you to do, at least try to make the minimum. But if you miss it totally, what do you think going to happen on the 20th of that month when they have to report it? They're going to report what? The $500 balance, and they're going to report it as a what? Late payment. Late payment is going to do what? Bring your credit score down. The late payment does not look good on your credit report when you're going to apply for new credit, whether it's a car or purchase a home. And that late payment is going to stay on there for what? 2 years. And that's going to bring your score down. So as I mentioned, there's two components. There's the due date, or when the bill is due to be paid in full, and there's the reporting date from Capital One or Discover or American Express. Whoever you have your credit card through, they're gonna report this to Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and they're gonna report it. So now I talked about, let's suppose you file for bankruptcy, and you file Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Chapter 7 bankruptcy is still your credit report for what? 10 years. Again, if you file bankruptcy, which is Chapter 7, and you chose to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy, that's still your credit report for 10 years. If you chose to file Chapter 13 bankruptcy, that's still your credit report for 7 years. If your house going into foreclosure is still in your credit report for 7 years. And it's repossession or voluntary repossession. I'll go into that later. So I'm talking about the fundamentals of credit. This is called credit education. This is part of money rehab. Why? Because it says, Christ said, when you notice, St. John, the 8th chapter, 32nd verse, I read the Bible back and forth. I am spiritual. What does that mean? I do not belong to any religious organization. However, I am free to serve God with freedom, meaning that I can observe some of their laws and principles and incorporate it with mine. But I am free. I have freedom of choice. That's what spiritual means to me. I have to serve God in the way I choose to serve God, in my own way. Yet I incorporate the laws from Baptist or Hindu or different philosophies and incorporate them, and those are the things that I live by. So this is called credit education. This is part of the money rehab. And a lot of you out there, when you're going for, I'm going to go into the next chapter because this credit card is going to be a series. So tonight I talked about the FICO score, right? I talked about the meaning of credit. What does it actually mean? I talked about you going understanding that you make $50,000. You make $50,000. Your desired salary is $50,000, but you don't bring home $50,000. Again, your desired salary, what you agreed on, was $50,000, but you don't bring home $50,000. Why? Because you only bring home what was deducted from your paycheck, right? So after your deductions, which is your net pay or net earnings, which means your take-home pay, after all the deductions have been taken out of your check. So when people say, "Oh, I make $50,000," okay, you agreed upon making 50, but you don't bring home $50,000. Those are two different things. Okay, so what I talked about tonight is I'm going to go in a bunch of series on it. So this is Money Rehab, Financial Education Series. So tonight we talked about the basic fundamentals of the FICO score, 35, 30, 15, 10, and 10. And I'm going to give you a bonus. You can look it up on Google. Chase had the 524 rule. What is the 524 rule? If you take out 5 new credit cards from any bank or credit union over a 24-month period, which is 2 years. So if you get 5 new credit cards within 2 years, Chase will not extend you credit. You can look up. It's called the Chase 524 rule. And why this is important? Because many Americans, especially those that's in the black community, I think many of my people, and it's true, are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. This knowledge is not hidden. This knowledge is not kept from you. Many of my people, they reject it. They reject learning. They reject educating themselves. Not all. It's not all. A lot of black people are not struggling. There are many wealthy black people. I'm not talking about the ones that you see on TV, the celebrities. But I'm talking about the ones that are into real estate investing. There's a lot of wealthy black people. And one of the great ones is called Robert Smith. I had mispronounced his name in the last video. It's Robert Smith. He's an venture capitalist. He goes around buying business. He's kind of like the show Shark Tank. When you watch Shark Tank on Channel 7, you have Mark Cuban, Mr. Wonderful, Barbara, and Robert Smith. He's a very wealthy man on the lines of Warren Buffett. So it's not a color, it's not a black thing. There's many white people, Spanish people, of different ethnic groups. They're destroyed for the lack of knowledge, right? Because when it comes to credit and bad credit, they don't have a color to it. What it is that it's a lack of information. Is the information lacking? No. So what I want each and every one of you to do, you have to invest in yourself. You might have to put down the Netflix subscription for a minute based on what your income is. If each and every one of you should take out identity theft insurance, right? Because many of you pay your bills on your cell phones. You have all these apps. You're constantly on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You're putting up your pictures. A lot of you put up your pictures on Facebook. I'm critical of that. I'm at fault for that. So we upload our pictures on Facebook. That's part of identity theft, if you didn't know. Someone taking your picture and pretending to be you. I see that on Dr. Phil's show. It's called catfishing, where your picture or your image, likes of images, being compromised. A lot of you don't know that. Then when we go on our phone, we're paying our cell phone bill. We're checking our bank accounts. We're doing everything on our phone. So now, let's suppose your phone get hacked. Now, all your banking and your social security information is compromised. So why not have identity theft protection? So when you go log on to Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and all the social media, then you can put the driver's license, your bank accounts, your credit card accounts, your medical card on there, social security card. And if someone try to do something, you will get an alert from, let's say you subscribe to LifeLock or Identity IQ. And the next thing I want you to do before that is you also have a paid subscription to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And what that means is when I mention about there's a due date and a reporting date, if you have a subscription to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, you can see when, let's say I have a bunch of credit cards. So I can see when these credit cards are being reported. So that lets me know that, let's say, for example, my American Express is due the 9th of every month, right? But American Express reports to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, I'm going to say the 15th. So I know that American Express, what they're doing, my Discover, and other credit cards that I have. So I can see when they report. Now I pay it off in full. Now when they report, they're going to report what? the balance. So if I have zero balance, what do you think they're going to report? They're going to report paid in full, and my credit card balance is going to be zero. Not only that, you get to look at your credit reports because each credit report is different on all three of them. So there's what makes up your credit profile, your personal information. So let's suppose, like myself, my name is Marvin Smith. I don't use Junior, but I am a junior or Marvin Smith II. I don't use Junior or second, right? And let's suppose you have kids in the house. Let's say there's a Robert Smith Jr. and a Robert Smith Sr. But your son and your daughter live in your house. Your son don't use Junior, he used Robert Smith. So now when they go do a car insurance, you're trying to go get car insurance, they're gonna see that, oh, there's two Robert Smiths. A lot of you don't know that. When you go put your car insurance, they're able to put a car insurance about also how many people live in the home. So I just dropped that jewel on you. So that's what with it. They also record on your personal information is your name, your social security, and your address where you lived at, or where you have lived at over your lifetime. A lot of that's on it. Now, let's suppose when you go look at Experian and Equifax and TransUnion, all your personal information is different. So now, what you can do, you can go to the Consumer Financial. I'll give you the Consumer Financial Consumer Financial website. And before you do that, you can dispute any inaccurate information that's on your credit report. So that way you will go to somebody who will repair credit. But I'm gonna give you a jewel. You don't have to go to somebody that repair credit. You can learn to do it yourself. And why that's important? Because if you understand your credit itself, it makes it more easy in your strategy when you're going to buy a home. Right? The next thing I want you to do is I want you to do what they call a security freeze on your credit. So your credit to Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, and I mentioned the little guys like LexisNexis, Innovis. The reason why you want to put a security freeze is to prevent identity theft. A lot of you kids that live with your parents, sometimes your parents might put utility bills in your name, right? Or someone go out and take out a credit card in your name, but you don't know this because you don't have two things. You don't have a security freeze to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and you don't have identity theft protection. So when you put that security freeze, all it means is that if I go out and try to get a new credit card, a utility bill, utility bill, because some utility company might require you to put down the security deposit, and they might check what into Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So if anybody try to take out anything in my name, like a new credit card, a mortgage, a car note, if my credit is frozen, right, to Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, what Equifax, TransUnion, Experian is going to do is they are going to alert me. Why? Because I have a paid subscription monthly with these three bureaus. So if anybody try to do something, I will get a text. Let me know that someone inquired in my name. And guess what? They won't be able to do it because the security freeze protects you from identity theft. Then on top of that, I have identity theft subscription through Experian, which means I have zero liability. I'm zero liability meaning what? I have little liability if someone was to take my credit cards and use them. I won't be responsible for it because once I call it, say they're stolen, yet I have identity theft protection, I'm not liable for it. Right? Now, I want you to check with your bank and look and see, do you have zero liability protection on debit cards? That's why I encourage people now that I teach. I want you to use your credit card, not your debit card. There's a couple of reasons why. I'll get into that later. So you want to subscribe to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And what I'm talking about, you're going to see these things on your credit reports. If there's information on your credit reports that are not accurate, you can dispute them. And you can also pull your credit reports on annualcredit.com. Right? So the reason why is I was talking to the young man that I'm mentoring, I mentioned to him about what's important is that you take a subscription. Because you have a subscription for everything else. You have a gym membership. You subscribe to Netflix. You subscribe to Hulu. Subscribe to YouTube. Why not invest into yourself and understand how credit works? Do a security freeze. Get identity theft protection on that. So these are the fundamentals. When you take control of your life and everything around you, you're going to always constantly elevate. Constant elevation causes expansion. And the more you adopt the mind of prosperity and success, you're willing to do these things. And this is not a magic pill. This is not a quick fix. Bad credit, which is equivalent to bad decisions and bad behavior, happen over time. If anyone tell you that, you know what? I can take these things off your credit report, like repos and stuff like that. Be careful with those type of ideas. Because a lot of time when you're desperate and you're in a financial bind or situation and you're desperate, that's when you get scammed and taken advantage of. Yeah. So the goal here tonight is, of so many things I'm going to talk about, I talked about the fundamentals of credit. I'm not finished yet. No, I'm not finished. The next part we're going to talk about is credit strategies. Credit strategies. How, like, I made a joke last week. I said some people go for clothes shopping, they go food shopping. I went money shopping. Right. And I was successful on top of what I have. So the reason why I share that is it's just a mindset. Did I always have it this way? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. That's why I say America is a beautiful place. I call it the land of milk and honey. What is milk? Nurturing. What is honey? It's bittersweet. In America, you could be and do and have. You can be whatever you want. There's always a chance for you. So if you build up bad credit over time, there's always a chance for you to do what? To reverse it. But it only comes with what? A renewing of the mind, which is a renewing of behavior, renewing of decision making, and renewing of behavior. This comes from what? A lack. You're lacking something. So a lot of times when you're lacking something, what do? You go fill it up. Money's not evil. People say, well, money's the root of all evil. That's a lie. It's the lack of money. Tell that to a homeless person. Oh, money the root of all evil. They'll look at you and laugh. They lack money. It's the lack thereof. That's all it is. There's nothing wrong with having money. And the way you think can either keep money from you or draw money to you. I tend to love to draw money to me. Why? Because whatever I attach to after I am is what the universe is going to send out to bless me with and manifest itself to me. I am rich, I am wealthy.